Cool. So thank you all for coming out. We're super lucky tonight to have Carlos Bedoya with us. We've kind of stolen him from IIT, where he's doing a semester of teaching as a representative of PRODUCTORA. Carlos is a founding member, one of 4 of the Office PRODUCTORA, which probably most of you have obviously at this point heard about. But it's an office made of Carlos, Victor Jaime from Mexico as well, Abel Perles from Argentina, and Wonne Ickx from Belgium. And it's a really unique kind of mix of people who come from various backgrounds, various different offices and other influences, and I think somehow they've managed to put together a really interesting office that's pumping out some great work. And it's really becoming an office not only recognized as one of the strongest in Mexico, but it has a really strong also international reputation at this point. They've been featured in the Beijing Biennale of 2006, Venice of 2008, and in the National Art Museum of Beijing, and in the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. They've also been the recipients of many awards. In 2007, they won the Architectural League of New York for the Young Architects Forum as well, and the Emerging Voices Award of 2013. This year, they received the Mies Crown Hall America's Prize for Emerging Architects for their Pavillion on the Zocalo, which I'm sure you're probably going to show this. Okay. Yeah. So. They've also been publishing pretty widely. They have their first monograph in 2010, published by Arquine, and they just published 2 years ago with 2G, the prominent Spanish journal or publication, which is available on PDF, unfortunately, at this point. It's the way the world seems to be going at the moment. They collaborate often with artists, both local Mexican artists as well as some very well-known artists, Francis Alice, Pablo Bronstein, and so on. Very interestingly, in 2011, they set up this kind of gallery space within their really beautiful building. I don't know if you're going to show photos of your space, but it's called Liga, and it's a really great platform which exhibits Latin American architecture, sort of emerging Latin American architecture. And it's a forum also that curates events in and around the city as well. So they're doing a lot of work that kind of really, I would say, raising a certain level of sort of subtlety in the architecture scene in Mexico through a set of strong geometric forms and a really strong attention to detail. So I think, and in construction as well. So I think this will all come clear when you see the talk from Carlos. But if you could please welcome me and join me in welcoming Carlos. Thank you.
Could you turn the light so we can see better images? So thank you very much, first of all, to the Iowa State University, obviously to Ross and Yvonne. I used to met them like almost 12 years ago, and we used to even like have a collaboration together when the office just started, and it was a cool experience. Since then, we are very close friends. Thank you very much also to Luis Rico and Deborah, and I am very pleased to share with you some of the current work we are developing at the office. So, as you may know, the lecture is called Architecture with Bedoya, and basically the idea is to try to, I'm going to explain some of our projects, but the idea is to try to understand that by having this kind of difficulty, we are able to discover or rediscover things like new special experiences and new things very fast, like a small boat, Jose Maria Rilke's boat, which come up from letters to a young poet. So, which has to do a little bit more, and which is which trigger like this idea of the difficulty in the architecture. So most people have, with the help of conventions, turned their solution toward what is easy and toward the easiest side of the easy. But it is clear that we must trust in what is difficult. Everything alive trusts in it. Everything in nature grows and defends itself any way it can, and is spontaneously itself, tries to be itself at all costs and against all opposition. We know little, but that we must trust in what is difficult is a certainty that will never abandon us. It is good to be solitary, for solitude is difficult. That something is difficult must be one of the reasons for us to do it. So I'm gonna show you some of the projects of the office, and I try to create like a set of groups, and we try to explain them through some specific tools which are like pretty common in the architecture field, such as columns, grids, rhythm. I mean, very simple things. They think that this strategy allows to, on the one hand, to solve all the things that has to do with function, orientation, or even program, but also to create like a new special experiences and to rediscover some things through these like elements. So the first set of projects I'm going to present is they are about rhythm and columns. The first one is the Pavillion that we developed in the Zocalo, which is like the main square in Mexico. It was in the framework of the fair, it's international fair, which happen every year. And this is like the space where the Pavillion was located. This is the main square in the city. It's a public space, and basically we put our pavilion in this corner because it was like the main entrance to the Zocalo. Here there is pedestrian street, and this is one of the most important streets which just have in front of it like this square and also like the cathedral and so on. So we decided, I mean, we were asked to create this pavilion to be able to provide to the users like information about the fair, and also to create like a space in where they can have like different events such as lectures or concerts and so on, which complement one way or another, like the fair. So we proposed like this triangle pavilion because allows us in one way to create like different conditions in regards the context which surrounding like all the plaza, all the Zocalo. We had like two main spaces, which were like this triangle shape, which contained like a double height space, and we had like this sort of corridor promenade, which gives you access to the Zocalo. And we decided to use like a very regular rhythm of wooden columns and beams, which came up from the structural logic of the project. So we did like this. We have to build up like this pavilion very fast because the schedule of the Zocalo of this plaza is completely full because it's like the most important public space in the country. So we had to build up very fast this pavilion. So what we did is to create like this sort of wooden structure, which was pretty easy to build up because I mean it was like equally divided, and we tried to ensemble all the pieces on the floor. So once they were like finished, they were raised by a crane. So it was pretty easy to build at the end and very fast. And also, what it's pretty important about this idea is that by using this specific rhythm, which came up from the structure calculation, we were able to create like this, the aesthetic of the building. I mean, all this rhythm has to do with the structure, but also allows to provide the building with these like different textures and these shadows which were cast over the same wooden surface. So at the end, this is the final result, where we can see like the two main spaces of the pavilion. One which is this triangular space, which is like a double height space in where we could have like the lectures and other activities. And this like a sort of corridor promenade which allows us to have like a new point of view in regards the pavilion, of the Zocalo. So this is like the main facade, and we can see also here like these two elements at night. And this is interior of the triangular space, which is like this double-height space, which also has like these openings, which allow this space to establish a relationship between the interior and the exterior. And also, we have this opening which was above the platform, so we could see like also like the people who was like walking over this like sort of corridor promenade space. Also, all this rhythm and created by the structure allows to organize the roof, the ceiling, and also to place like the illumination systems, and even like these joints, which were like steel joints, which again were part of the aesthetic of the building. So on the other hand, we have like the other space, which is this like sort of corridor promenade, which allows the people. I mean, it was just to have like a new spatial experience. It was just the purpose of this corridor. So all of a sudden we were able to have like this new point of view. I mean, to rediscover one way or another the Zocalo Square, which was pretty beautiful. I mean, you just when you are there, you just get into the Zocalo and you don't see anything. But like by doing this, providing this for this ramp, we were able to have like this moment where the people used to stand there and see what is going on in the Zocalo. So the next project is like a mobile art library. So our client had already like a book art collection, and he was planning to build up like a fixed library, I mean a building. But in the meantime, he had already like a bunch of books, so he wanted to allow the people, I mean the people of the city, to be able to have access to this like collection of books of art. So he asked us to develop like this like mobile library in order to be able to take all the books to different neighborhoods within the city. So he asked us to make this library. So the thing is that, but he also wanted to have like a sort of flexible space where he can make a library but other activities. So if, we decided to put all the bookshelves above in this part of the bus, because in that way we were able to clear completely the space. So imagine that, I mean, the surface of the truck, of this bus is too small, so if we had put it like the shelves on the floor, we could lose a lot of space, so we decided just to put a wall in order to clear as much as possible the space which were on the floor. But also we were asked to have like another activities within the bus. We had to have like lectures, small lectures, or projections, or like different kind of modes. So we create like a sort of mobile platform which allows to have like these different kind of modes within the truck. So we can have like lectures, or just like projections, or even these like the library mode and so on. And also it was important to be as flexible as possible in order to have like possible connections, not only with the interior, but also with the context, depending on the necessities of the activity that was developing in the truck. So, and the other challenge was to work with the automobile, which is like very different than to work in a plug, which is like just fixed there. So, again, by using like a structure which help us to keep all the things fixed, we were able to solve everything within the truck. I mean, on the one hand, all these like columns, steel columns, allow us to have the structure of this space, but also allow us to start to create like the bookshelves, and also help us to place the mobile platforms, the installations, the AC or the illumination like supporting system, and even all the panels, the solid panels, which we're going to protect the books from the sunlight, and also allow us to place all the door system, which were all around the space of the truck. And another important thing is that instead of trying to do architecture over a truck, we try to take advantage of the aesthetic of the truck in itself. I mean, because we consider it's important, I mean, to try to understand these kind of elements, which are like pretty smart in terms of how they work as in the truck, in terms of traffic and what the automobile has to have in order to be safety and so on. So we try to incorporate all these like devices of truck within our design. So we had the possibility to create like all these like different programs or activities in the truck. For instance, this is like the library mode, where by lifting up like these platforms, we were able to reach the books. Or we could have like this like a completely flexible scenario where you could do whatever you want, chairs or whatever. And even you can have, I mean, here are the bookshelves which are in the top of the roof, so you can have a completely clear space below. And again, you were able to create like these different configurations within the truck space. So we can have like this sort of like stepped surface which allows you to have like a small lecture or something like that. And even like this the relationship that we could establish with the context. And so we can have, depending on the necessities of the activity, we could have like a completely isolated space, or even we can open up completely the doors and we can establish like a strong relationship with the exterior context. So I don't know, depends on the place and so on. We could open up the doors or close one side of the truck and leave the other one open. And even at night it was like completely different because it works almost like a sort of lamp. Like the next project is a call center, which was in Mexico City too. It was in a neighborhood which was like very chaotic in terms of urban like structure. This is like a street that used to be a river. So one way or another, once they cover and make it like a road, it makes something pretty weird in the urban landscape. And also, it's like a very it has a mixed use. It is a mixed use like neighborhood, so you can find all of a sudden like housing units, but also factories or I don't know, like very different mixed use programs. So we were asked to increase the capacity of a call center. So, we had to do like something very fast, very cheap, nice, and so on. So again, we decided just to play with a very simple like module in order to make it easier, the construction of this like extension. And in the meantime, we were like researching what to do and how to do it. We realized that there were like this corrugated metal sheet, which is used in a lot of kind of warehouse spaces, such as Walmarts and other things. But we found that it was pretty interesting, these kind of elements, because they are very thin, because they have to be cheap. But the thing is that in order to make it stronger, what they do is to try to make these folds, so it can be like self, or how do you say, like autoportable, self-portrait, or rigid, yes. So, but also it gives you like a soft texture, and for us that was very important because it was a very smart material. So what we did is to use like this corrugated metal sheet, which could be as long as you wanted, and it allows to build up like something very fast, and we would say like very elegant, although it's just a simple call center, with all these textures and all these shades like cast over the same surface. So we could have like, and in order to provide from sunlight to the interior, we just start to remove like some of these strips, so we can create like a sort of beautiful rhythm. And I mean, we don't try to be as pretentious as this, but we thought about the beautiful Parthenon, this rhythm and all these textures. And at the end, it was a very simple thing. I mean, in terms of elements. So we tried one way or another to emulate like this idea of the Parthenon. And because the contexts were like very chaotic, we tried to make like something very quiet and simple. So this is why we decided to do like this sort of aesthetic like strategy. And even to try to make it more simpler, what we did is to try to mimic or to hide some elements such as windows and doors within the same system. So here is the door opening, I mean, and here it is closed, so you can see it's part of the same like materials and system. So once it is closed, you don't realize, I mean, because the ramp is there, obviously, but let's say in general, yeah, you don't see where it is like another element. It could be the door. And also we tried to play, because it was a very narrow space, like we tried to play with the scale perception of this space and the building. So we divided in three, like the windows, so you could imagine that it was like a 3-story building. But once they turned on the light, you realize it was like a just 2-story building. The next project is a community cultural center in Oaxaca, which is a state in Mexico. It is like 4-hour drive from Mexico City. It's an amazing state of the country. I would say that maybe it's one of the most beautiful places, with beautiful landscape, culture, and food, and so on, and everything. So again, we try to, because we are not going to be able to supervise all the construction, we try to make as simple as possible. So we create again like a sort of specific rhythm that allows to define the structure, the openings. We even choose like a very simple material, which was concrete with color, that allows one way or another to make a sensitive building in regards the context, which is like a very old context. And we try to make this like as kind as possible, because it's a small town and you cannot get there and design something like huge that don't allow them, the people to feel like they own the building. So we try to follow like the urban logic, which was, it was in a slope, and this is the higher point of this like place. So they have a sort of stepped like platforms or plazas. This is the first one, which is next to a cathedral. Then you have the second one, which is next to the main building. And then we have this other one, which was next to a market. And then it was our block. So we just opened up like a sort of void that allows the people to connect physically from this point to the museum. So sometimes they don't even realize that they were getting to the museum, and all of a sudden they realized that they were already there, which for us was like an important like operation to make them feel like comfortable with this new building. So once, because the topography, once you were in this plaza, which was the main plaza, you could see like the building like a just 1-story building. But once you cross like this gap, you arrive to this other plaza, which was the Cultural Center Plaza. You could see a 2-story high building. But you were able always to see through this void and to connect one way or another to the other space, and even to frame the context, the other buildings and so on. So it was not like a sort of closed building that don't allow you to feel like part of it. But one way or another, we were trying to allow the people to establish a relationship, not only with the building, but also with the context around the building. We try to create also like this sort of shortcuts, these like plazas or half plazas, half streets, ways, which allow the people to walk within the plot of the museum without feeling that they were getting to, they were able to use like the museum without getting to the space, the indoor space. And allow us to use it because allow us to cross and connect streets that were here to this other street that was in this place. So you were able even to use like the open spaces of the museum without getting into the interior space. This is another one. So these like paths or plazas allows you to connect even with other streets. So this is the first level, the level which is next to the main plaza, the plaza of the main building and the market. So you just get in here and you have like this like gallery space, which is this one. So here you can see like all the rhythm equally divided of the beams, and you can see here that these two volumes that allows to have like on the one hand this like exhibition space, and this side like a triple height within the museum. But also we could have like this sort of spaces in where you can see. I mean, almost always in the museum, you were able to establish like a relationship with the exterior and with the context, which was very important in terms of the concept. And then we have the second level, which is the level of the museum's plaza, or this cultural center plaza, which was this space. So in this space, we were just next to the museum's plaza. So we could establish again like a sort of relationship with the exterior. We could like define and to place like the openings in regards of the structure, the structural module. And finally, we have like it was a basement space. So this space were just able to be seen once you get into the museum, because you cannot see it from the street. So we have like this like more darker space in where we're going to be like archaeological pieces. It was like the best environment to have like this kind of artwork. So here you can see when you were, I mean, just when you get in, you are able to see like the third level. So all of a sudden, a space which used to be a two-story building or one-story building, depends on where we were standing. All of a sudden, you can have even like a triple height space, which was like a beautiful experience, which was below this. So we have like a basement below this level. And also, we had to design like a library, which was another element next to the museum, and it was again like doing with all this idea of having like a very specific module, structural module, which defined also the rhythm of the structure, of the openings, the facade here or even here. And we could also have like this kind of incredible like images in where, for instance, in this case, the facade looks like a piece of sheet, like a very thin like elements, because the different angles that we have within the project, and also this kind of views in where you could see like very abstract element just standing there. The next set of projects are about diagonals. And the first one, it's a house that we developed in this town, which is a 2-hour drive from Mexico City, in a beautiful place full of vegetation, and it is like a typical place in where the architecture is like a sort of colony architecture with small windows and clay tiles and kind of things like that. So we decided to use like this strategy of zigzag massing, which allows to solve a lot of things that we have or that we were asked to do by the client. So we were able, by doing this, to have like these different volumes. Instead of having like a huge massing, like in this case, which is next to our volume, we could like make it like, I mean, to have a less impact within the site by dividing by using this zigzag operation. We were able also to create this kind of patios, access, even these terraces, I mean this roof that could be used as a terrace for the space which was next to it. So we have that, and even break the scale of the house, which was very important for us. So as I mentioned before, we were able to provide the terraces to each of the levels, like in this case or this other case. So every one of the level, they had a sort of terrace next to it, just in front of it. And we were able to create, by doing like this zigzag operation, to create like these sort of openings which allows to have access to different spaces, like this or this other one. And even to break the scale, I mean, here you couldn't see like, I mean, how big the house was. And always we try to establish a sort of relationship between the interior space and the exterior, because it was just next to a lake, which is a beautiful landscape. So, I mean, here are the floor plans, which is very simple. We were asked to divide the house in on the one hand, this space, which is the higher floor plan. It is like the son's bedrooms. Then we have in the middle like the main bedroom, the father's, the parents' bedroom, and it was like a sort of apartment which was completely isolated. And then we have the last floor, which is the ground floor, where all the public areas were. So we were able, by doing this like zigzag thing, like to even to provide from privacy to each of the spaces and areas. And on the other hand, another thing which is very important in our architecture is the fact to provide like a surprise in our project. So this is the main facade. So when you are in the street and you are gonna get into the house, you see like this very abstract and even like a facade which we're trying to adapt to the context around it, with all these like tiles, these clay tiles and these small openings and so on, which were part of the context around the house. But once you get in, you discover like these sort of abstract volumes, like just like sort of boxes within the sides. And if you were in the lake, you can even see like a completely different house, like with openings all the way, and which allows the house to establish a strong relationship with the lake and with the exterior. This is one of the work in progress projects. It's an auditorium. It was a competition we won almost 3 years ago, which is a beautiful project because it's next to it. It's in a city called Cuernavaca, which is 1 hour drive from Mexico City, and it's in a it's incredible site because it's just next to the archaeological site. This is the site of our project. This is a building that used to be there that was demolished, and this is the archaeological site. And it was amazing because it's a beautiful project, but for us the most important thing it was the relationship that we could establish between the new auditorium, the new building, with the archaeological zone. That in those times where this old building was there, it didn't exist. So this is our site. This is like the main pyramid, and this is the project, the one that we designed and the one that won the competition. And basically, the most important thing, it was like this relationship. So all operations within the project try to establish a strong relationship between both spaces. So we did like, well, this is already, I mean, this is work in progress. I think that it's going to be ready in the next year. So there are two main spaces in the project. This one and this one, which is a platform, which allows us to have like a horizontal surface and then connect all this horizontal space with this one. And also the building, which have the auditorium within it. And this volume, which establish a relationship with the most important pyramid. So again, this is a real view from the work in progress, from the construction side, which is, I mean, it was taken like 2 months ago, so already right now it's like in advanced, like faster. So we have this section that allows to see like this relationship between all these ramps or stairs of the pyramid and the new building, which try to establish like a sort of conversation with the existing pyramid. And we take advantage of this ramp which goes higher in this point to place the auditorium. And we have like in this section like the platform where we were able to place like all the services areas which support auditorium use. So this is the floor plan of the auditorium where you can see all the platform where we have like all these spaces, the backstage and so on. And here you can see like the platform which allows to establish like a sort of relationship with the archaeological zone. This is the main floor plan where we have like this vestibule, which is the main vestibule. This is a secondary vestibule, and we have like the auditorium space. And this is the other part of the platform, which allows again to have a sort of horizontal connection with the archaeological site floor. So here you can see like this relationship between the main vestibule and the main pyramid of the site. And also it works like a spacing where you could, where you can do even performances, like music concerts or whatever. And it also frames like the pyramid, which is just in front of it. So there is always like this kind of relationship between the building and the context. And this is like a photo taken by in the back facade of the project, which is this one right now. The next set of projects, I think is the last one is about frame and width. This is a house that we developed in Gala in Sri Lanka. It was an amazing place, a beautiful place full of vegetation, and so again we try to create like this like grid and equally divided rhythm, which allows us to on the one hand to make it easier like structure to be built, and also to adapt to the slope, which was like it was a slope topography, so we were able to adapt like the house by having like this concrete structure, which we're going to support like this wooden space. So this is like the public space, and this is the private space. So by having like this, we were able to place different spaces that we were asked for, such as the swimming pool, living room, or like more private space. This is the 2 floor plan. This is the public area, and this is the private one. So here you can see, and we were able also to provide within the space of different heights, double heights, triple heights, and so we were able to clear the view from each of the spaces because this difference of heights. So here you are above and you have a space and you can see the landscape, or even if you go down, you can establish another kind of relationship with the context around the house. And once you want to go up and go to the private space, the space changes like completely because it's a wooden space, wooden material space, which allows you again to have a more cozy space in regards the space which was below this floor. The next project, this is cool. It was also a competition that we lost. It was in Finland. It was a campus designed by Alvarado, and as you can see, it is like a very chaotic, like urban place. And this is the plot that we were asked to develop. We had to do like an extension of the design school. So for us, the best strategy was to like propose like this circular floor plan, which allows us to organize the buildings, the extensions, but to deal with all these like weird like shapes and angles, and so we create like this sort of circular patio which allows us to organize all these volumes, but also to have like establish a connection with all the underground system which exists in Finland because the weather. In winter, which is half of the year, they have to use like this sort of underground like system to get to different spaces. So it like circular patio allows to make this connection, but also to organize these like sort of set of buildings which were like the extension of the design school. And every one of them, they have their own rhythm, their own structure, which allows, depends on the use of each of the spaces, to have like different kind of, or to fulfill the necessities of the spaces, depending on the program. So you could see here that they have like different heights and different rhythm within the structure. And also, for us it's pretty important, I mean, because the buildings have to house program and people, but also they are part of the urban landscape. So for us it is very important also to consider the importance of the architecture, not only in the scale where you are going to live, I mean within the building, but also how it's going to be in regards the context which is around it, and how are you going to perceive this volume. So on the one hand, we have like this opening facade, this completely open facade that looks towards the view and have the best like orientation in order to have like a complete openings. But in the worst like orientation, we did like a completely isolated facade, which made look the building also as a sort of sculpture or something like this. This is like the last competition that we did. We lost again, sorry. But it was a pretty nice experience because it was, again, like an extension for a contemporary art museum in Lima, Peru. This is the building, and they really love this building. They consider as an icon in Peru and Lima. So they asked us to respect as much as possible this building, whatever that means. So, and it was in a very beautiful place because it is like a sort of park, green area, like with a sort of pavilions that they were already there. Like it was like a pretty nice landscape. And we have this place, or we had this place to put like our extension. So what we decided was to bury completely the museum. So we were able not to block the view towards this building, which is the already existing building. We were able to make the extension, and to put like this sort of another element, which was our new pavilion, which marked the access to the new extension. So in here you can see like the buried extension and the new pavilion that we designed. But what was very important was that we were trying not only not to block the view towards the already existing building, but we were able to even to give it more importance, because once you got into this like sunken space, you were able to read like a sort of 5-story building. I mean, and it was supporting. I mean, the new building was supporting like the old one, the one that has to be respected, and even make it seems like the crown of all the building. So if you were within like this sunken space, you could even perceive the building as a 5-story building, which for us was like a pretty nice experience, like to have like the possibility to discover a new building, although it was like a sort of extension, a very solid extension. So what we do is to create like this space in the middle, which was all the program which complements the museum, such as rooms or a small auditorium or storage and so on, offices. And what we did was to create like these huge spaces just in both sides. And what was pretty nice about the project is that you were able always to establish a relationship between the museum and the rest of the spaces, because you were always able to walk from side to side, discover like one way. I mean, always like these beautiful spaces which were like the exhibition spaces. And on the other side, we have this like ramp which allows the people from the street to get into the building, I mean to this like sort of patio, but to take this ramp and if they want to connect here with the subway, or maybe to keep going down and use the space. And we had below all these ramp systems, the library that was asked also. So here you can understand a little bit better like the relationship between these spaces. So here we have like all the complementary spaces which always establish a relationship with the museum space, which was like this triple height space or even bigger. So this is like the scale of the exhibition rooms of the museum. And here you can see these windows, which are just next to the plaza, the sunken plaza. And here you can see this platform. It comes from this central building. So always there is a sort of relationship. And this is like a level, the level which connects the museum with the subway. So, and again, these windows which leads towards the sunken plaza. So there were always like this relationship between the museum and these beautiful spaces with the rest of the extension. So here you can understand like this idea. how it works in this space in regards the spaces which are in the sides of the building. So, and here you can see this is like the building which has all the complementary programs such as offices, rooms, and so on. And this is the space below the ramps, which has the library. Again, it's the other way around. And here you can see like these two spaces. This building which has the offices and so on, and this one the ramps, which has below the library, and the pavilion, which give access towards the new extension. And this is the last project I'm going to show you, which is like a already existing house, which is in Mexico City. And it was pretty nice because it was already close towards the street. And this is the floor plans we had to develop, to design this house. And we realized that the most important spaces were the ones that were just next to these facades, which were like not the main facades. So we had to design the relationship between this space with the space which was next to it, which are this space and this other one. So we tried to clear as much as possible the floor plan so we can establish this relationship and everything. I mean, everything that we're done within interior, we're trying to avoid having like obstacles that blocks the view towards the sides of the plot. So, for instance, we have like this facade, which was a complete glass facade, which allows us to establish this kind of relationship. We have these glass sheets that allow us to open up completely the space and make it even stronger by this relationship, or the axis, or even like this, which is the dining room, where you can always see what is happening around this facade, which is not the main facade. And even the design of these like fixed furniture, like the chimney or these kind of things, were like just standing by using like these steel elements, so they could seem like they were floating, and they allow the floor keep going, or to have like this kitchen furniture, which have a separation between it and the roof, so you were able always to see like the continuity of the roof or of the floor. And all the things that we were trying to do, we're trying to making a strong relationship between interior and exterior. So even here, if you open the door, you can see always like the exterior, which is in the next space, or even like the bathrooms. They were like furniture that were not attached to the facade, so we can have like completely openings. And what is very nice about these houses, that once because you don't have view towards the city, but once you get into the last level, which is this one, which is the rooftop, you are able again to rediscover the city from another point of view, which is pretty nice about this house. Because all the time you are like, you have views towards the party wall, which are next to you, to your neighbors. But once you get into this terrace, you are able again to see all the landscape of this city. And this is the last photo of the project. So I want to finish the lecture with like talking about this project that we have that we run in parallel to our office, which is Liga, which is a platform of architecture that we founded like 4 years ago, and it's a platform to create like thought around architecture, like critique, and so on. And it's a platform where we do like mainly 2 formats of showing architecture. One is exhibitions. The other one is like activities which complements like this idea of talking and thinking about architecture. So we are in a pretty beautiful building, a modern building designed by one of the most important modern architects in Mexico. This is old photo, which is beautiful. And this is the Liga space, which is pretty small, as you can see, it's in a corner. But what is beautiful about this space also is that it used to be a commercial space. It's not the typical gallery where you have like a completely white cube, completely isolated from the exterior. So here you can have like a sort of 24-hour gallery space, which establishes a strong relationship with the exterior, not only with the interior but also with the exterior, and which is this one that is very small. And I mean, it used to be called Liga Bíblica, and right now it's just Liga. And this is one of the formats that we have, which are exhibitions. So we try to invite mainly emerging Latin American emergent offices. So it was pretty funny because the first exhibition was from Wessel von Erlinghausen, and they did like a model, but in a bigger scale, so they can detail things. So they were the first photos that appeared online. So the people thought that Liga was like a huge museum, but it wasn't. I mean, it was just a small model. And all of a sudden you realize once you saw like this photo with Mauricio face there, you realize that it was like pretty small. And the reality was this one, that it was like a model that has like all a selection of their work, but with a lot of details, so you could see like and we started to invite like a lot of emerging offices from Latin America, from Colombia, Chile, Mexico, Brazil, and so on. So this is part of the photos of what happened in Liga in terms of the exhibitions. It's very nice because this is a Brazilian architect which played with magnets. It was a beautiful piece. And there is like already like we are in the 25 like exhibition. So we have had people from all over Latin America. And all of a sudden happened like these kind of things, like there was a very strong like rain, and everything got flooded. And I don't know, it was the best photo of this piece, for instance, like this sort of mirror in the floor, like reflecting again like this like piece, green piece, or this sort of spaces where the people get together, and once you get into this space, you discover like this beautiful garden, and so on. And there has been a bunch of exhibitions. And on the other hand, I mean, for instance, this one is a bench. The guests decided not to design something within the gallery, but better. He told us that he rather to make something that could last and something that would be useful. That he decided to design like this sort of bench or whatever it is. And we try to make lectures which complement like the exhibition in We try to rediscover like places within the city, and we try to make the lectures there, so we can have like another. I mean, we can visit like different places within the city, not only Liga, but also like important places in Mexico. This is a Mexican museum. And we have also the other format, which is Interludios, Liga, which is a more free like format where we can invite always architects, or it could be like filmmakers or philosophers or whatever, artists, but always the idea is to talk about architecture, I mean, since from different point of views. So we have like this kind of lectures, or for instance, this installation that was made by an artist he tried to paste a photo, but with an angle, so it seems like the building was falling down. That was this one that was looking from outside. So this is the other space, the other Liga space. Here's our office, PRODUCTORA, and the ground floor is the space of the exhibition space. I think that's all.
Cool. Thank you so much, Carlos. That was beautiful. Does anyone have any questions? I have a few, or at least one I want to ask. You can go first, then, in that case. I wanted to ask you about how, or what you feel the role of the rendering is in your process. Because I feel that so much of the architecture, so much of the design work that you do is carried through the drawings themselves, model making, but also explorations in materiality, and of course a very beautiful sort of sense of context. It's a very unique form of context as well. And I just wondered, in that sense, what role the rendering sort of plays, or what do you see is the utility of the rendering in a more kind of general sense today too?
I could say that at least in our office, it has like two purposes. One, on the one hand, try to depict like some of your ideas in terms of, I mean, what you are designing, how to verify they are working, how they look like, if you are on the right track or you have to change something or whatever. So on the one hand, this is one of the ideas. But on the other hand, I think that they have their own like life. They are products in itself, like something which could be beautiful in itself without represent. Because they cannot show you everything about the project, so they have their own limits. So I think on the one hand, it allows to research and to verify like some of our ideas. But on the other hand, we want to produce always like something that we consider beautiful. So the image in itself turns into something like a material, important material in itself that can be like shown and analyzed, and that has its own beauty. So I would say that these two like things.
Any other questions?
So I'm curious. I'm curious about the role of artists in your practice and how that relationship to the difficulty that you speak of, maybe how the collaboration with artists specifically helps to kind of crack open that problem of difficulty.
I could say that they allow us to open up our mind. I mean, for a moment to get out from the specific tasks of the architecture, because they have another point of view and another like necessities, and they don't have to answer to any client. Or the piece of art doesn't have to work in relation to the weather or whatever. So one way or another, it allows to have like a more fresh point of view or a starting point to start to develop our project. So that could be a difficulty in terms of that once you arrive to and try to develop the project and try to solve like how to place a program, that clash between something which is like an intuition idea of something like a massing thing or whatever, once you try to solve with all the components of the architecture, it starts to happen something incredible. And this is where at least in our opinion, where the interesting things start to happen. So yeah, I would say that this is, so we try to look a lot to artists because they have like this like fresh and like exterior like point of view about the aesthetic, the shapes and many other things.
Would the same go in a sort of a different sense for Liga as well? In the sense that you have a kind of constant influx and circulation of voices, discussions, people, intervention, and so on.
Yeah, it's very interesting how Liga works because we have to establish a conversation. I mean, it's completely different than in other spaces, like other spaces, because you invite somebody and somebody will, whatever they think it should be. But here, in the case of Ligas, if they don't know the space, because almost all of them are from abroad, they have to establish a conversation with us in order to understand what to do and if they are on the right track. So we establish a very strong relationship with the people who we invited to participate in Liga. And in some way, they give us a lot of feedback and retroalimentation in regards what they are doing, which could be applied as an architect always.
Questions?
In regards to Liga, clearly it's incredibly advantageous for your firm and the people in the area to see it, but what was the motivation behind starting something like this? Was it filling a niche that there wasn't in the neighborhood, or was it just kind of an idea that the partners of the firm had, or?
We were, I mean, because we always try to look for new resources that allow us to learn, to keep learning. I mean, one way to learn for us as a PRODUCTORA is to learn from each of the partners. I mean, I learn from all of my partners, but also we are trying to look always at new ways to keep thinking. So we found like the necessity of, I mean, we realized that there were not any space in Latin America, like Liga, that there was like a necessity of having these kind of spaces because, I mean, here in America there is like a storefront or other spaces, even in Europe or even in, I don't know, Japan, China, and so on. But in America, in Latin America, there were not spaces like this. So we realized that there was a gap in this field. So because we knew that it was going to be necessary not only for us but for all the community of architects, we decided to open up like space. So this is why. But we learned these kind of things, and this is what we look for to learn.
So now that you say you've identified that gap, I'm curious to see where do you see Liga going in the future? Do you expect it to get bigger? Do you expect it to retain its kind of neighborhood, local quality?
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting question because I think that there is two ways to grow. One could be by increasing the size, the physical size of the space. But I think nowadays there are other opportunities which are through a sort of networking like space, which could be even like a virtual space. So you can have online things like texts and share them, or even you can establish a relationship with other spaces. Because I mean, when we founded Liga, it was 4 years ago. There weren't any other spaces. Nowadays there are 2 or 3 spaces. For instance, there is one in Argentina. There is another one there are open up another one in Chile and so on. So we nowadays we are able to extend Liga and to collaborate with other spaces and make a bigger impact in the architect community. So I think that the idea would be to, I mean, we don't like to plan and to think a lot about the things, because once you start to think a lot, I think that you get stuck in your thoughts. So all of a sudden you have to just flow and see what is going on. And more in that in these times, which all the things change fast. And okay, let's go.
Other last questions? Okay. Once again, thank you so much, Carlos.